Our theme is patriotism, which is love or devotion to country. And as I was thinking about the theme of today, I thought the approach of a Golden Jubilee and the London Olympics, which is supposed to be a national event, and the fracturing of British relations with the EU, and of course a deep crisis in the Eurozone, and a resurgence in Welsh and Scottish nationalisms, and then riots in England in August 2001, but it seems not elsewhere, was an opportune time to reconsider this theme of patriotism. Patriotism has perhaps not worn well as a theme, and some might consider it somewhat old-fashioned, and there might be a whole host of reasons for considering it somewhat old-fashioned. In this country, at least, it's been tested by a whole number of events through the 20th and 21st centuries. World wars, global movements, not least the labour and women's movements, more recently, of course, by the Occupy movements. It's been tested by empire and post-empire in this country, by our relationships with the European Union, and of course it's been tested by our diversity of religious and ethnic and cultural and of course religious identities. But despite all that, it seems to me that something like love of country continues to fizz and bubble. Because of course country can have a completely different meaning if you contrast it with the notion of the city, and therefore it attaches to something like place and a sense of belonging. And in a late interview, it's precisely that association that the playwright Harold Pinter gave to it. When he talked about love of country, he meant to associate it with this sense of a love of place and a love of belonging. And it seems to me also that patriotism might have a civic form rather than a nationalist form. And I know there's going to be some conversation about that later on in the day. And it seems to me it might also have a popular form rather than an authoritarian form. So is it possible that patriotism might be part of a popular imagination and not simply part of the state's imagination? Which is perhaps another question we might come to. Of course, for religious communities, and this is clearly an issue for a theological institute, for religious communities, patriotism raises the issue about multiple loyalties. Because is it the case that a common object of love or veneration is required by patriotism? Does patriotism require a common object of love or veneration? But of course, such a common object seems religiously troubling. What then is the truth of patriotism for religious traditions and communities?